You are more than waiting tables of love, long forgotten. You are still light in a room that no one sees. Don't vanish quietly. Those words weren't from my husband. They came from a man I barely knew, and they changed everything. Hi everyone, and welcome. Have you ever felt like you were becoming invisible in your own life? This is a story about what happens when the one person who is supposed to see you, truly see you, stops looking. It's about how a quiet life can be shattered by a single, devastating truth. Stick with me, and if this story resonates with you, please consider subscribing and sharing your own experiences in the comments below. I'm 61 years old, and for most of my life I found comfort in the predictable rhythm of things. I had loved my husband, Mark, since we were young, raised two wonderful children, and clung to the kind of steadfast love our parents' generation championed. I believed that if I played by the rules, remained faithful, and honored every promise, life would reward me with a quiet, gentle peace. My world was built on small rituals, anniversaries, handwritten cards, and morning coffee in our matching mugs. These were the stitches that held our life together. But I was about to find out that a single thread can unravel everything. I never imagined a story like this could be mine. Please listen closely, because the mistake I made was believing that silence meant peace. It was our 34th wedding anniversary. I remember the day vividly because I'd circled the date in red on our kitchen calendar, a hopeful little ritual I performed every year, even though I knew Mark rarely glanced at it. That morning, I woke before the alarm, watching the early sunlight stretch across the bedspread, marveling at how quickly the years had passed. With the kids grown and living their own lives, the house was quieter, filled with the faint echoes of the past. I slipped out of bed and went downstairs to make his favorite breakfast: scrambled eggs with a touch of cream cheese, perfectly toasted sourdough, and strong black coffee. He came down about 10 minutes later, his face already illuminated by the glow of his phone as he scrolled through emails. "Morning," he mumbled, planting a quick, distracted kiss on the crown of my head. I waited, holding my breath for just a second. Nothing. "Happy anniversary," I said, my voice softer than I intended. He looked up, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. "Oh, right, yeah. Happy anniversary, babe." He gave me another peck, this one even quicker. "I might be late tonight. We've got that big presentation." I smiled, the practiced, gentle smile of a wife who doesn't make waves. "Of course. Good luck." That evening, I sat alone at the small dining table we'd bought together back in '92, a relic from a different era of our marriage. I had prepared a pot roast with rosemary and red potatoes, lit a single tapered candle, and even wore the pearl earrings he'd given me decades ago, back when he still wrote me poems. But the chair opposite me remained empty. He never came home. Around 8 o'clock, a text message finally arrived. "Running behind. Don't wait up." I just sat there, watching the candle flame dance and shrink until it sputtered out, leaving a trail of smoke in the quiet room. It felt like all the air had been sucked out of my lungs. The next morning, I made a conscious decision not to cry. Instead, I took myself out. I got a manicure, bought myself a new silk scarf, and went for a long walk in the park. That's when my phone rang, displaying an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but some strange impulse made me answer. "Hello? Mrs. Connolly? This is Julian, Mark's boss." His voice was low and serious. "I know this is highly unusual, but I was hoping I could speak with you privately." I recognized the name, of course. Mark was always talking about him. Julian, the sharp-dressing, Ivy League-educated executive who was recently divorced. Julian this, Julian that. I'd never met the man. Is everything okay? I asked, my heart starting to beat a little faster. I think we should talk, he said. Are you free for lunch? Please, just hear me out. Every instinct I had screamed that this was wrong, that it was inappropriate and strange. But I was so tired of being proper. I was tired of setting tables for one, of waiting for someone to remember that I existed. So I said yes. What do you think was going through my mind at that moment? Fear? Anger? Or maybe, just maybe, a small, terrifying flicker of hope that I was finally going to get some answers? Let me know your thoughts, and don't forget to like this video if you're invested in this story. He chose a quiet cafe on the outskirts of town, a rustic place with large windows and soft jazz playing in the background. When I walked in, he immediately stood, a perfect gentleman. He looked different from how I'd pictured him. Less polished, more human. There was a faint stubble on his jaw, and his eyes looked tired, carrying a weight I hadn't expected. A hint of nervousness lay just beneath his professional charm. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I know this is out of the blue." I simply nodded, unable to form words. I'm not sure why I'm here. He took a slow, deliberate breath. "I just thought you deserved to know," he started, his gaze direct and unwavering. "Your husband didn't work late last night." For a moment, the world went silent. The soft jazz, the clinking of silverware, it all disappeared. I just stared at him, waiting. "He wasn't in the office," he continued. "I know because I was there all night." I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I just stared at my glass of water, the condensation trickling down the side, my own heart thudding in my chest. "I know it's not my place," he said, his voice softer now. "But I've been watching him for a while, and I've seen things I can't ignore anymore. Last night, he was seen at a downtown hotel with a junior associate from his team." "I am so sorry." The silence that fell between us was heavy, suffocating. My mind flashed to the pot roast, the pearl earrings, the single candle burning down to nothing. All of it felt like a pathetic cliché. He leaned forward slightly. "I'm only telling you this because I've been through it myself. My own marriage ended because of secrets. And it's wrong. You deserve the truth." In that instant, I felt something inside me snap, not like shattering glass, but like an old rope that had been under immense tension for years finally giving way. Then he said something that completely blindsided me. "You deserved more than last night," he said, his voice filled not with pity or flirtation, but with a profound and unexpected respect. "And if no one else is going to acknowledge that, I will." I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing at all. We finished our lunch in a shared, somber silence, but as I got up to leave, he stood and gently touched my arm. "Happy anniversary, Mrs. Connolly." That was the moment I knew my life had irrevocably changed, not the world, but me. Something deep inside, something I had long forgotten, had begun to stir. And I had no idea where it was about to take me. The next morning, I woke up with a strange sense of quiet inside me. It wasn't peace, and it wasn't pain. It was just stillness. I looked over at Mark, sleeping soundly, his mouth slightly agape, completely oblivious. It struck me then, with startling clarity, just how vast the distance between us had become, even while sharing the same bed. He never mentioned the anniversary dinner he'd missed. He rushed through his morning routine and left for work with a quick peck on my cheek, his mind already a million miles away. But for the first time, my mind wasn't on him. It was replaying the look in Julian's eyes when he said, "You deserved more." It hadn't been a line. It had been an acknowledgement. It made me feel seen, and it was terrifying to realize how desperately I had craved that feeling. Later that day, I found myself back at the park, sitting on the same bench. My phone buzzed with a text. It was Julian. "I hope you're okay." "No pressure, but I'm at the cafe again. You're welcome to join me." I hesitated, my mind racing. I knew how this could be perceived, but this didn't feel sordid or wrong. It felt necessary. 10 minutes later, I was sitting across from him, a cappuccino warming my hands, a nervous flutter in my stomach. "You didn't have to come," he said gently. "I know." We sat in a comfortable silence for a while before he spoke again. "You strike me as someone who has held a lot together for a very long time." I looked at him surprised. "You get all that from 2 short conversations?" He offered a small, sad smile. "Some things are just easy to see." And then, I don't know why, but I started talking. I told him about our kids, our daughter teaching out in Oregon, and our son who is newly married. I told him how Mark and I used to go dancing on Saturday nights, and how those nights slowly faded into silent evenings in front of the television. I confessed that I'd stopped writing in my journal because I'd forgotten what I even wanted anymore. He just listened, truly listened, without once glancing at his phone. "I know what that feels like," he said when I finished. "My ex-wife once told me that I had stopped seeing her, even when I was looking right at her. I didn't get it then. I do now." The quiet shame in his voice made me feel a connection to him that I hadn't felt with my own husband in years. It wasn't romance, not yet. It was the profound intimacy of sharing your invisible wounds with someone who could actually see the scars. As we were leaving, he reached into his coat. "This is going to sound odd," he said, "but I brought you something." He handed me a small folded piece of paper. Inside, written in neat block letters, was a short poem. "You are more than waiting tables of love, long forgotten. You are still light in a room that no one sees. Don't vanish quietly." My throat tightened. "You wrote this," I whispered. He shrugged, a faint blush on his cheeks. "I used to write a lot." I thought I'd stopped. Then I met someone who reminded me how to begin again. I walked out into the cool afternoon air and let the light rain fall on my face, not bothering with my umbrella. I needed to feel something real, something unfiltered. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about Mark's betrayal anymore. This was about me waking up. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in over a decade. I opened my journal. My hand felt shaky, but I wrote down a few lines. "I am still here. I don't know who I'm becoming, but I know I'm not invisible anymore." When Mark finally came into the kitchen, I took a deep breath. "Mark, can I ask you something?" "Sure, what's up?" he said, scrolling on his phone. I met his gaze. "Where were you on our anniversary?" His brow furrowed. "I told you, I had to work late." "No," I said, my voice low but steady as a rock. "You didn't." "I know you weren't at the office, and before you try to lie again, I want you to think about what that does. To me, to us." He stared at me, completely stunned, and then he did the most telling thing of all. He looked away. At his coffee cup, at the floor, anywhere but at me. He didn't apologize or explain, and I realized I didn't need him to. That night, as we sat at the dinner table in our usual silence, I looked at him, really looked at him, not with anger or even disappointment, but with a quiet, sad clarity. I stood up, walked over, and kissed the top of his head. "I think I need some time for myself," I said softly. He looked up, startled. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said, "that I've been waiting for someone else to see me for so long, I forgot that I could just look in the mirror. I didn't yell. I didn't cause a scene. I simply walked out onto the porch and into the cool evening air." I don't know what this new chapter holds for me, if it involves Julian or simply being on my own. But I know that I have been given a second chance, not at love, but at life. A chance to stop waiting for someone else to acknowledge my worth and to finally claim it for myself. I am not afraid to begin again. Thank you for being here with me for this journey. The most important lesson I learned is that you can't let your own light go out. Even when it feels like no one is watching, you have to be the one to keep it burning. What did you take away from this story? Please share your thoughts in the comments, and if you haven't already, subscribe for more stories about the hidden corners of the human heart. Until next time, take care of yourself.